Today I am reviewing Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. My name is Linda Jo Martin. I am known on BookTube as Book Lady. And this was an excellent novel. It's a short novel, about 250 pages. It won the Pulitzer Prize way back in 2005. The novelist Marilynne Robinson wrote one novel prior to this one and has written two sequels to this one. She is a member of the Congregationalist Church and pretty much wrote her life and philosophy into this book. In the main character, John Ames, who is a Congregationalist minister in a very small town in Iowa, Gilead, Iowa. So, John Ames, age 76, is dying. The year is 1956. John Ames, at the age of 76, has married a second time and has a very young wife, and she has given birth to a son. His son is less than 7 years old, and he's concerned that his son will never have an opportunity to know much about his father unless he writes something. So the entire book is his written narrative to be given to his son after he dies. In this narrative, it's sort of like a journal. As he goes through his daily life, he's still preaching and he's still getting out and going places, but mostly as the book goes on, he gets tired and he stays home more and more and becomes weaker. Well, during the time that he's writing this, his best friend's son returns to town. His son is Jack Boughton. Actually, the son's real name is John Ames Boughton. Now, the person who's writing this book, this narrative, is Reverend John Ames. So John Ames Boughton was named after him, and because of the similarity of their names, everyone calls him Jack Boughton. And then his father, who is the best friend of Reverend Ames, is called Old Boughton. Old Boughton is also a minister. They are best friends from childhood, and they are both ministers, however, in different denominations. So the book is very heavily philosophical. It's very slow-moving. There's not much action and adventure. There is one little adventure that he took when he was a child. He accompanied his father to Kansas to search for his grandfather's grave. It was a trip that was made on foot with a lot of deprivation, starvation. It was quite the adventure. But then when he was done doing that, he went home to Gilead, Iowa, and stayed there the rest of his life. So this little small town that is actually decaying, it's not thriving. This little small town is the entire life of this man who dedicated his life to teaching people about the Lord. He did have a previous marriage. He was married at a young age to a childhood sweetheart who unfortunately died in childbirth, and the child died with her. So he went through most of his life wishing that he could have children. However, he had none, and he had to watch his friend Boughton, who had a plethora of children, including this Jack Boughton, who turned out to be quite the handful. He was a very mischievous boy. He did things that he should not have done, and he ended up doing actually something pretty sinful in young adult years, and then he left town. Well, during the course of John Ames, age 76, writing this narrative, this Jack Boughton comes back to town. He's 42 years old at that time, about the same age as John Ames' wife. And John Ames has a little concern that this boy who had caused so many problems as a youth might actually get together with his wife, I guess, after he dies. He's concerned that he might hurt his wife and child. So that becomes a real concern for him during the book. And still, the narrative goes on at a very slow pace and very philosophical, yet I found it very easy to read. The main themes of the book are forgiveness and redemption. Jack Boughton was concerned that perhaps he was not capable of being redeemed. He had tried to be saved, yet he just couldn't do it for some reason. He was just unable to be saved as far as he knew, because every time he tried, nothing happened. So, yeah, it was a very religious type of book. I personally would have said that, of course, you can be saved. Everyone can be saved. Jesus wants us all to be saved. However, that's not what these two ministers in Gilead, Iowa said. They gave a very sketchy and non-committal answer to Jack's question about whether some people are born for perdition. Now I'm going to read a couple of quotations from the book. John Ames wanted his son to love and respect his mother, so he contemplated the 10 Commandments, especially the commandment about loving and honoring your mother and father. So he wrote, "Every human being is worthy of honor, but the conscious discipline of honor is learned from this setting apart of the mother and father, who usually labor and are heavy laden, and may be cranky or stingy or ignorant or overbearing. Believe me, I know this can be a hard commandment to keep. But I believe also that the rewards of obedience are great, because at the root of real honor is also the sense of the sacredness of the person who is its object." When Jack Boughton was questioning whether he was predestined to be evil, whether it was possible for him to be saved, he asked, "Do you think some people are intentionally and irretrievably consigned to perdition?" Unfortunately, old Boughton, his father, and John Ames were unable to give him a direct answer to that question. I think I have one more in here. Near the end of the book, John Ames reflected on our independence from one another. He wrote, "In every important way, we are such secrets from each other, and I do believe that there is a separate language in each of us, also a separate aesthetics and a separate jurisprudence. Every single one of us is a little civilization, but with our own variant notions of what is beautiful and what is acceptable." So that's my review of Gilead. I had some trouble putting this review together. This is not the first time I tried to record it. It's a very deep philosophical book. It's not an easy book to explain, just that the main themes are forgiveness and redemption, but there are many other issues and themes that are explored along the way. I enjoyed the book. I do plan to read the 2 sequels. I think the author put her own philosophy into the book using the character of Reverend John Ames. And I'm a Christian, but I am not a Congregationalist. In fact, I am no denomination at all and see no need to become one. So I don't totally understand her form of Christianity, or why there has to be a different form of Christianity. To me, I just read the Bible, and my pastor teaches the Bible verse by verse, and I am a born-again Christian, non-denominational type, so I really don't get the need for one denomination over another. In the book, they were talking about the Congregational minister, and I think it was like the Lutheran. There was a Lutheran church in the town, and Methodist. So I find that all very confusing. Some things I just don't understand, I guess. But I did appreciate reading a novel that had a lot of Christian thought in it. I just wish that something had been said about salvation. This poor character of Jack Boughton was really seeking his salvation, unable to find it because he just felt like he was doomed to be evil, to do evil things, to do the wrong things. He was having a hard time getting through life. He was not forgiving himself for his sins. So, great book. I am so glad to have been introduced to the writing of Marilynne Robinson, and I will probably read everything else that she wrote. Well, that's it for this review, and I will be back in the next video. Bye!